Now, live from the Mike 92.1 studios, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to Thursday, Dominic. Stop playing with the microphone and join me.
Thank you.
For the Devil's Advocate Show.
Another adventure today for the Devil's Advocates, Michael.
It was Field Trip Thursday today, buddy. Couldn't go through the week without a field trip.
And breaking the law.
We did break the law today. Apparently, administrative codes of the Wisconsin Capitol building as we unlawfully assembled and threw our voices in support behind the Solidarity Singers today over the lunch hour.
Can't hear your voice, brother, Dominic.
I don't know what they're singing now.
We shall overcome someday. It's your lack of church attendance that makes this a difficult activity.
As many of these songs that the Solidarity Singers sing are based on hymnals, perhaps, differing church songs, if you will. I could see where you, as an atheist and a part of the Devil's Minions, may not know the basis for some of those songs, Dominic.
No, if they had done it to AC/DC Back in Black, I'd have been singing right along with them.
Well, there was a gathering. I did a head count. It was roughly about 40 people if you include the rotunda balcony. There were kids there. There were little school children.
The tours were going on. Yeah.
I was waiting for the kids to join in some of the songs, but no Gangnam Style there today.
No.
But I noticed, Dominic, even when you had the words, because the singers were kind enough to provide the words for all to join in, solidarity, if you will, Dominic, even when provided the words, you still found it problematic to sing along.
Well, I certainly sang along to some parts of it, Michael.
They say that in Wisconsin there are no neutrals there. You're either with the workers or you're with the billionaires. Which side are you on, Dominic? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boy? Which side are you on?
So I don't think either you or I will make it to American Idol this time through.
Well, we didn't get ticketed, and I'm glad for a couple reasons, but one reason because it wasn't of my bad singing.
Well, we also did go and have conversation with the Capitol Police Force, and we spoke to a young officer, and he was sort of kind of trying to be helpful. I asked him, is the mere act of singing an unlawful act under administrative code? And he said, well, it's not the singing, it's the fact that you're here and you have failed to get a permit. So, by extension, our singing, good or bad, was potentially a criminal act in the state of Wisconsin, which could be held up to administrative tickets of over $200, Dominic.
That seems, and one of the reasons why I came there today with you, Mike, is number one, I love to see people express their thoughts. And certainly, I don't agree with everybody around there singing, but I did sing some of the songs with them. They talked about freedom. Everybody loves freedom. But then they sung about some other things I didn't agree with. One comment in one of the songs was kind of a rip on private property. As a libertarian, I believe in private property. But the whole point is that, this is an exchange.
I've got to interject now, buddy.
Oh, wait, what?
Because you so misunderstood the context of private property.
Well, I have the song here,
Wisconsin's capital is the people's house, Dominic. And when Governor Scott Walker started denying access to the protesters in the uprising in the spring of 2011, in essence, he was trying to make the public's house into his private property. That's what the singers are objecting to. This is not some song about property rights as extended by the U.S. Supreme Court, Dominic. I assure you, this is about the greater right of the people of Wisconsin to show their displeasure with the Walker administration.
Well, and again,
the Republicans.
I'm fine with that if they would have clarified that, but,
Buddy, it's a song. It doesn't have... they gave you the words.
But I'm not going to sing a song about ripping out private property. Now, Crudy, I understand what you're saying is that if Walker's, bringing the hammer down, and I'm with the singers in that regard, we should be able to go in there and sing to our heart's content. But let me be the devil's advocate, and we responded to some people on the Facebook page in this regard. If you're going to protest on the sidewalk, or if you're going to go to a park, you have to pull permits for all sorts of things. Is it such a stretch of the imagination to think you would have to pull a permit for this? And in talking to the Madison police force there, Capitol Police, he did say that only one permit needs to be pulled, that not everybody participating has to get their own permit. Of course, my follow-up question was, well, has anybody pulled a permit? And
no, of course not, Dominic.
No.
Because that is the civil disobedience of the protesters.
Right.
Since when did I have to get a permit to express my First Amendment rights, Dominic? I thought you were the constitutionalist.
Well, and I am, and that's why I support him in that regard. But also, Crudy, I mean, from a big government progressive, don't you got to get a permit to get a lemonade stand these days? So explain to me the nuance and the definition, the differences between having to get a permit for these other things and having to get a permit for this.
I perceive the right of the Solidarity Singers to be expressing their constitutionally protected right of free speech and right of assembly. It is not the government right to ban the right of lawful disobedience. I mean, or civil disobedience. If I want to assemble, Dominic, and you tell me first I must seek a permit, then you are basically creating hindrances to my right to lawfully assemble.
But isn't the law
that is also constitutionally
but the lawfully
protected?
Assemble portion means permit, does it not? Otherwise, it's an unlawful assembly. Can you go to the square right now in Washington D.C. and bring 100,000 people out without getting a permit? I mean, of course not. You have to get permits for these things. I mean, it happens all the time. I'm not disagreeing with what the Solidarity Singers are saying.
These administrative codes that were passed under the Walker administration were specifically passed to
silence these
the voice of the people that would, hold them up to scrutiny. Clearly, this was a partisan act, Dominic, and hopefully some of this is going to the end. We saw some friends up there. We saw Greg from Normal, Stoner Greg, lobbying last week on behalf of the marijuana and hemp interest in the state of Wisconsin. But Greg was, good old Greg. He saw us. He recognized us immediately. He said hi to us. He actually introduced us to the Solidarity Singers. It was a very generous act on his part.
And the Capitol Police now know who we are, Michael.
Yeah, I suspect they do. First of all, they don't like being photographed. I noticed that. I photographed them, and I noticed they were conspicuous in that they walked out of frame. And then, of course, we opened a dialogue with them, because if they were going to issue me a citation, I wanted them to at least look me in the eye and realize this was not some unreasonable act that you and I took today. This was not some criminal endeavor, in my opinion, Dom.
Sure.
This was expressing our First Amendment right and, quite frankly, assembling in a lawful fashion. And if you create, a hindrance to that lawful assembly, Dom, it's you taking away the constitutional rights of another.
And I agree with you, Crudy, but obviously there are reasons and means to go about to get these permits in other regards. Why is it this particular one? For instance, if everybody went down the hallway and stood in front of one of, for instance, Rebecca Clayfish's office, and everybody stood outside there and started singing instead of in the rotunda, would that make a difference?
Perhaps, Dominic. I mean, if you're making it impossible for someone to do business at some point, Capitol Police might have to step in. But that was not the case. Buddy, solidarity, brother Dominic.
Hey, it was a great time. Nice to meet people out there.
Nice people. Enjoyed ourselves at the Capitol today. When we come back, Dominic, I'm going to talk about one of my New Year's resolutions for the National Democratic Party, specifically ending the filibuster as we know it in the U.S. Senate. That didn't change today. Folks, Harry Reid has no spine. We are the Devil's Advocates. We'll be back after this short break.
Go, go.